Motivation. I'm motivated. But what do you do when motivation is not enough? You rely on your work ethic. You rely on your discipline. That's mentality. Now let's get it.
To the stage, please welcome Julian Peters.
What's going on, everybody? This is Julian back with My Mentality Podcast. For those watching, how's it going? For those listening, welcome back to my voice. Today we have a special guest. We have a teacher. This is the first segment of the teacher's experience where I'm going to be talking to different teachers of all levels. So we have Miss Ashlie Tottress. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Going pretty good. I actually went to high school with her way back in the day. At Victory Christian, go VC, and that's where I met you and your husband. Crazy,
Yes.
how that worked. So, how long have you been a teacher?
I'm on my 6th year this year.
And y'all are in Tulsa?
Yeah, Tulsa. Well, I teach in Broken Arrow. I live in Broken Arrow.
Okay.
But I taught at Tulsa also.
Okay. And what level are you teaching?
I'm teaching 3rd now.
3rd grade. Where did you start?
Yeah. I started at Cooper in 2nd grade, Cooper Elementary.
Okay. So you're working with brains that are still being developed.
Yes.
So what got you into teaching?
I knew I always wanted to do something with kids. It started out as me wanting to be a pediatrician, but I realized I didn't like science as much as I knew I needed to. So then I thought, well, what about a child psychologist? And I took a couple of psychology classes, and it just wasn't really hitting it like the way that I wanted it to be.
Right.
And so then I went to elementary education, and that just felt right. So that's just kind of how it all happened.
How it fell through. Cool.
Yeah.
So, as far as teaching, you went to elementary education. Have you did any more education since that, or was that kind of?
That was kind of it. I'm interested in going to get my master's in higher education, but at this moment, I'm just trying to make it through the pandemic.
I feel you. We're gonna talk about that because I know that flipped a lot of teachers' heads upside down. That whole But all right. So what I wanted to start with was obviously we got into how you got into teaching. What was that first year being thrown to the wolves like?
It was very eye-opening. It was pretty rough, but I was actually excited that I had a rough first year because I knew it could only go up from there. But it taught me a lot too. I realized that it's very important to gain relationships with students. And so that's kind of what I thrive off of, because I started in a low poverty, low income district. And then seeing that was very eye-opening to realize that kids actually go through that. So it gave me a new outlook of, well, they might be behaving that way because they hadn't eaten dinner the night before or something along the lines of that. So it gave me a little bit more insight on what kids actually go through. So I was kind of glad that it was rough, but I mean, I made it through. So
I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know if you know this, but my master's is in education.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I had to learn complete 360 because my undergrad was marketing. So it was like,
oh yeah, that's
one
different.
of those situations where God just opened the door and I walked through it and I'm like, do it. But I learned a lot. And everybody in that class were teachers. I was the only one that wasn't. So hearing their stories, you start to realize and understand just what a teacher deals with as far as, especially in low poverty areas, kids that are going through it. So how do you reach those kids? Because I know it's not just reaching them, but there's a trust level that has to be earned.
True. And that is what the relationship building, I had to really learn how to master that. So it's like, what do you like to do? If they play sports, it's like, well, let me go watch your game, and showing them that you care, or playing with them at recess because they might not have an adult interaction or somebody that actually cares to play a game with them. So I really had to learn the fundamentals of that. And then I was able to use that every year. And now I'm at a school where it's not necessarily low income. So I'm kind of on the whole opposite end. But I still feel like those children need relationships too. They might, even though they might have a nanny, they might not have parent interaction either. So I've seen it from both point of views.
For sure, for sure. So with obviously you're dealing with diverse backgrounds in every classroom.
Yes.
And you're trying to teach and get trust and build a relationship with all these diverse backgrounds. What is that like in a typical day? Because you still got curriculum you have to hit, but like you said, I'm pretty sure some of your teaching plans might have tried to be more enthusiastic to get them drawn in. So how are you going about that?
It's hard. It's mastering multitasking and trying to reach all of them. I do a lot of engaging things that I think most kids would like, even if they might not read at a certain level or they can't add at a certain. I do a lot of partner work and stuff like that. So I don't want to feel like I'm necessarily like having the kid feel like upset that I can't read, so I can't win this game, or I'm only, so I try to do a lot of encouraging and confidence building type of things, but it's hard to do that, to reach all levels, because I have high students that are bored because the stuff that they're learning they already know, or they can master it after being taught it one time. So it's hard, but I just try to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful, but it's definitely diverse.
Do you think that competition is good or bad for those levels?
I think it's good. I think it teaches them that they're not always going to win. And a lot of them already struggle with losing. So I think it's a good lesson to teach them, like, there's things that I still don't know, and there's things I'm still learning, and I didn't get A's on every single test. So just making it, I guess, not that big of a deal, but still a big deal, I
Right.
think is helping.
Right, for sure. I think learning how to lose is something that you need to do early.
Yes.
Because nobody's perfect records are very slim. So you're right. And a lot of people, I didn't know how to lose growing up. I hated it, which is okay, but not to the point that you're acting out or
Yes.
you know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. So I guess my next question, you talked about it a little bit, but you're reaching these kids, you're having the competitions, and then they're leaving. They're going from third grade to fourth grade. It's like
Yeah.
you got a whole new crop that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you're building trust to where even when these kids go to fourth or fifth grade, they still want to come back to Miss Tottress and talk to them. So how do you
Yeah.
deal with that? Because I know you have to be there for them, but then you have a whole nother crop that's coming.
It just naturally happens. You just know how to multitask between the students that you have and the students that you had. I still have kids that come to me because they're not able to control their anger or they're upset, and all they want to do is just be in my presence. I don't even have to really say anything. And then I have kids from years ago that I'm still in contact through their parents. So it's just kind of knowing, like, they still obviously need some sort of encouragement from me. So I need to be available even though I have the busiest schedule in a day.
Right.
But it's just making that time, because I mean, our job as educators is just to influence and just to be there.
Right.
I didn't choose this career obviously for the money, but it's just to make an impact. So
For sure. And you're doing that because, like I say, teachers are the ones developing the leaders. It's crazy how undervalued y'all are to me, because you really are developing our youth into the presidents, into the senates, into the firefight, like everything that we have that is growing. It's a teacher that literally has involvement in that, and it's not seen. So that blows my mind. But I creeped your Facebook hard once I sent you just to back up what you're saying. I seen you post a picture with the young lady who had a sixth grade graduation that you went and attended. So that's the type of stuff you're talking about when you're saying you're still keeping those relationships and being.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's amazing to me. Like, I know that's tough.
Thank you. It is.
I know that's tough. So as far as education and the value of it, do you feel like educators are valued in America?
I don't know. I don't think they're valued. Just to go off of your point, literally, if there's a doctor operating on you, I obviously want them to be educated in that field, but they had to learn from an educator. But that educator is probably getting paid 3 times less than that doctor. So the value of the educator is nowhere near as great as the value of the educated. And I feel like education as a whole is valued in America only from the mindset of, if I get good grades, if I get this on an ACT and an SAT and get into this Ivy League, then I can have a great career and make a lot of money. I think it's valued in that mindset. But on the back end, teachers or educators might say, well, if you don't get good grades, then you're just gonna not have money, or you're not gonna. So it could go both ways. But overall, educators, no, I don't feel like we're truly valued in America. Not like other countries, I don't think.
Right. I agree. So let me ask you this: should education be a right or a privilege?
Oh, I think it needs to be a right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think in some countries it is a privilege to be able to learn how to read and learn how to write and do math. But I think it's necessary. I think it should be.
No,
Personally,
that's the
yeah.
question. Like I said, I was gonna spring something on you. That's the question that I did. I read a book back during my undergrad where it talked about this guy. He was a millionaire. He's from India. He came up through a third world country. He said every day he woke up, the first thing he did was thank God for shelter, water, and heat.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's a norm.
Mm-hmm.
I would never thank God for that because I just grew up thinking that's what it was. And
Yeah.
I feel like education is the same way. It's more of you are a certain age, you go to class, you learn. Where I don't think people are seeing that, like, this is why we see foreign exchange students come over here and they're so
Mm-hmm.
successful, because that's all
Yeah.
they have. They don't see anything else. So that's why I asked that question.
Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah. So as far as education being valued, I want people to understand that, because I think a lot of people don't realize this. Teaching is not just from 8 to 3. Uh,
Yes.
so, how much work do you take home, and what
Oh,
all?
the honest truth, all of my work every day. I probably work on school stuff from when I get home, or okay, so like on a normal day, I get home around 5.
Mhm.
School gets out at 4. So I already stay an hour after school, just cleaning up the classroom, getting my stuff ready for the following day. But when I get home, I spend time with my daughter until bedtime at 7, and I'm probably doing work for another 3 or so hours. And that's not even including weekends.
Right. And so weekends
So
are
it's a
still
lot
at,
of hours.
and so and that's not just the grading papers, that's planning
No.
for the next week. That's the whole thing, right?
Yes. I try to get my grading done in school.
Right. Okay.
I try
So
to maximize my time.
right, yeah, that's that. I don't think people get that. Like, you guys, you're literally working like 80 hours a week, I feel like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
and getting paid not what it is, especially,
Mhm.
I mean, and you don't have to comment on this, but especially in Oklahoma, where it's just it's not good there. And I've seen some pictures where it looked like you had participated in like the protesting for the
Yeah,
what was that experience like?
that was an eye-opening experience. I didn't realize how many people would band together as far as teachers
Mhm.
to do that. But then it was also sad because I experienced getting flipped off a lot, just being on or like on the side of the road, or get back in school. Like, my kid needs to be in school. You're out here doing, like, it was just a lot of hate. So I saw it from both aspects, but at the same time, I felt proud that I was a part of that, because I felt like students do deserve better, and they can't get better if we don't get treated better.
Right.
So
Right.
I
You
felt
just
strong
excited
about
to
it.
work, excited to
Mm-hmm.
work and passionate, and it's interesting too. You mentioned that as far as, you know, some people receiving it well and some people not. Parents are stakeholders when it comes to education. They're the community. They're the
Mm-hmm.
people that have to really help you guys as far as making sure that their kid, you know, is doing homework, attentive to those things. I'm
Yeah.
sure you deal with situations where it's more of a parent looking at school as babysitting. So, how do you, are there ways that as a school or as a teacher that you guys have tried to build community, tried to get that engagement to be better in those situations?
Yeah, there's been ways. In the school that I was with that was low income, we tried really hard to get more parent involvement. Um, but we also realized those parents have multiple jobs just to make ends meet. And so we offered tutoring after school. And so that was a way that we could help them out. And then we offered sports. So I coached a basketball team with this other guy. And so that was an outlet. And we were partnered with the Tulsa Dream Center,
Oh,
who
okay.
is all about bettering the community in that aspect. So there were other things that we did. And then we also did at that school able athletes. So it's for students with disabilities. They got to do like a Olympic type performance.
Mhm.
So that was that. And now at the school that I'm at, it's a lot of parent involvement, and the community is really geared around the school, which is great. And so there's not a lot that we actually have to do, because they've already set up the community to help us at the school that I'm at. So it was good to see both sides. I'm glad that I'm able to be able to have experience in both sides of it.
So, do you see an obvious advantage, disadvantage based on demographic of schools and students?
I do. Yeah, I do. But there's pros and cons to both of it too. But I think overall there it's a clear disadvantage and advantage as far as resources and availability
Right.
for different things.
And resources, you meaning like up-to-date textbooks,
Yes,
like that?
electronics, yes, textbooks. And I mean, every kid can have their own Chromebook, or every kid can have an iPad. And it's also like that in the low poverty. Like if you teach at a Title I, they have funds to be able to have resources. But at on the other end, there's parents at other schools that can just pay for their kid to have a device at home, or to, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Not as a like extensive process, I guess, to get all that stuff.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. As far as for me, you just have to submit like a request or something. And some things the school is able to provide, and some things the school isn't. So a
Right.
lot of teachers do donors choose and all of that stuff to get funds for the classroom.
For sure.
So.
So that leads into my next thing, the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
I know electronics was definitely needed during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I know for teachers, this completely changed y'all's game because online teaching is tough.
Yes.
I went past my master's and was pursuing my PhD. I
Mm-hmm.
stopped, but it was all online.
Oh.
And I was lost because I don't learn that way.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I know this sounds bad because I'm a grown man. You're giving me my freedom on how I learn and what I do stuff. And I just wasn't like, I wasn't doing it. Like, oh, I have
Mm-hmm.
an assignment due Saturday. I'm gonna wait till Saturday morning to do it.
Yeah.
So how are
Mm-hmm.
you guys? I know that's a tough process. So how are you guys addressing that?
It is tough. We just have to make sure each kid has a device first off, and has Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
because you can have a device and not even. And the libraries were closed at the time. I think they might still be for. I know they offer free internet, but I don't think you're allowed to go in it right now. Um, and just making things digital. I had to learn on this website how to make all of the worksheets that I do digital so that they can turn it in that way. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I was nowhere near prepared. Like they had their textbooks, but I mean, like you said, you can't learn digitally. It's hard virtually teaching. One, you can't see every kid on your screen. You don't know if they're struggling. You don't even know if they're doing the work or if it's their parent doing the work and they're just turning it in. So it's just hard. It's gotten easier now that we're prepared for it, but it's still I am for in person fully. I think they learn best in person.
So do you think that this pandemic, obviously the good is everybody should be prepared now. If this would happen again, knock on wood that it never.
I hope not. Yeah.
But do you think that this has caused a regression for students? Are they
I think
have
so.
to catch up?
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of catch up. So at the end of last year, when we stopped in March, this year in third grade, we had to cover all of the second grade stuff that they hadn't covered and on top of ours. So it's like double the work, but it's not the student's fault per se, because it's not their fault that they didn't learn it. But it's just hard in that aspect. But yeah, I for sure think regression happened because, I mean, who's to say they were actually reading during that time? They might have been enjoying themselves. Like, I don't have to go to school.
Right. And that's
So
the part where, like I said, the community aspect is extremely important. Like the parents are extremely important. That's part of the reason why I want to do this, because I don't know if parents really understand that. Like teachers can only do so much before it's 4 o'clock and those kids go home.
Yeah.
My mom was on my behind about homework and those things. And even then I still, how's school? Good. How your grades? They good.
Yeah.
Crying out of my teeth. And like you said, she's working, she's a single mother, so she can't pay attention as much as she would have liked.
Exactly.
Teacher conference, and then I was dead to rights. But so I think that with the online, you said that you have obviously adjusted and gotten better. Do you think that this has helped your skills as a teacher?
Oh, it's definitely helped in my flexibility. Like now I feel like you can give me anything and I can adjust to it.
Right.
And then it also challenged me to be able to teach in a different way, whether it be recording my lessons and hoping that they watched it before they did the assignment, or with parent communication. I have to talk to parents more, like, I didn't receive this assignment. Can you have them do it? Or I'll give them grace and I'll say, okay, you can do this assignment one more time just to get a better grade, because I know that it's hard when I'm not there to help them along the way. And I don't want to put all of the responsibility on the parent at that time, because you don't know what they're going through and how many kids they have and how many grade levels are in the household. So I I don't know. It's hard, but you have to think about it not just for yourself, but for others.
Right. So have you done anything creative wise as far as tech now? Make a music video or do something like
No.
that?
Only thing creative I've done is taught a lesson.
Okay.
And recorded myself.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
So I had to do that, and then I got super heavy involved in Prezi.
Oh.
Yeah, which is like PowerPoint, but like on steroids. Like,
yes, I've done one Prezi in college.
Once those, like, the teachers in my class showed me how to do Prezi, I was hooked. I'm like, press this and this pops up and it's animation, and I'm like, that would be something that if I was a student, my attention would always be on that. Slide going for that. So, before we get into the next topic, real quick. So the as far as educators and being valued, do you guys, as far as increasing your education level, so like you said, if you go get masters, does that help with pay, or do you stay?
No, not that much. I think it's about a 2,000 a year increase for a master's. So a couple of dollars. Not that much. It's not even, it's like, almost to the point where it's like, why is it worth it?
I was getting ready to ask that.
Yep. Yeah. Other than the fact of having it.
Right. And do you have any aspirations as far as going beyond teaching? as far as like counseling, your counselor or principal? Like, is that something that you look to do?
Um, I would possibly be interested in like administrative type aspect. I don't know. I can't say right now, principal wise, but I know I want to do something other than just teaching, but still in education.
Right, for sure.
But after I feel like I have like decades of experience under
Right,
my belt.
for sure, for sure. So my last question, and I don't want to hold you up too much. Like I said, I wasn't going to hold you too much. She's on spring break, y'all, so she's now. The experience of being a teacher in America and being Black. That's something I want to talk about. I'm excited that you're on here because you are my first teacher and you're an African American woman.
Yeah.
I never had a Black teacher, so I think that impacted me as seeing. I didn't see anybody in that role that looked like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how important was that to you? And do you think that helps Black kids seeing Black education?
I for sure think it helps. In the elementary school that I went to, I had all Black teachers. But then when I went to Victory from 6th to 12th grade, it was the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of just like, wow, like I guess I never appreciated the fact that my teacher looked like me. But we had some really good teachers at Victory. So it didn't necessarily like deter my educational experience. But I do think that for young boys specifically, I think it's nice to have a male teacher that looks like them. There's not a lot of males teaching, period. Mm-hmm. And for me, in both schools that I was in, I'm the only Black teacher. So it kind of made me feel like, well, I need to be the best that I can be because I want their first Black teacher to be amazing. Like I want them to be able to compare me to other teachers, but in a good way.
Right.
And so it definitely influenced me in that way of, wow, I'm the only one that looks like me teaching in the school. But as a kid, it didn't influence me until I went to a whole different school and was like, wow, only the Black people are the coaches for the most part. So,
right. No.
And then the coaches just teach history. So I don't really count them as a teacher.
Right. So
but
do you guys discuss social issues in class?
No, not really. Now I did do some things during Black History Month, and it shocked me how much they don't know. How much they didn't even know. Some of them didn't even know who Martin Luther King was. And so that was like, whew, you don't know Martin Luther King Jr. But it's something that it's not in the curriculum anywhere. I don't know if it'll ever be because some people might feel some type of way about it. But I thought it was important to show them who it was. And so after, I get through my whole lesson, they're like, did this really happen? I'm like, yeah. Yeah. How long ago was it? Not that long ago, sadly.
Right.
So it's like, I'm kind of glad that they're asking questions, but it's also saddening to know they had no idea.
What's crazy is I believe I was 16 years old when I first learned about the Tulsa race riots.
I was probably around that age.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
Like that makes no sense. That happened in we were in Tulsa. Like, it's not in any books. It's not even talked about.
No.
And so it's almost it was eye-opening to me, especially like you said, as I got older, because it's like it's such a big piece of history, especially for our culture, that's missing in our in education. Does that change? Do you think there's a possibility that ever updates?
Oh, I don't think so, honestly. Because the history that they're teaching isn't always the truth either. So I don't know. I don't think
you ever had to teach something that you were like, I know this isn't right, or I don't agree with, but it's a part of curriculum?
Mm-hmm. I've had to. I've had to teach, Christopher Columbus, but not the, yeah, the true. When we talk about the Trail of Tears for Indians, Native Americans, they don't know really about that. It tells them, why it's called the Trail of Tears. And it's very general, but it's not actually showing like these people lost their lands, like they were forced to leave. It's not, I don't know, it's sugar coated. And I get, they have little minds and you don't want to scar them. But I also feel like it's important for them to know the real of what's happening in the world and what happened.
I think it is because you end up growing up not understanding this, and then that's what causes this big communication gap. Well, like a Black person can say something to a person and they not receive it because they like, I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
In your world, you probably haven't. And I can't even get mad. Now that you say that, like you really can't get mad at that person. You just have to educate them.
Exactly. They're just ignorant. They don't know.
Right. And ignorant.
And there's just a lot of ignorant people.
Yeah. And ignorant is, I think people got to realize ignorant is not an insult all the time. Now, sometimes I use ignorant towards people and I'm insulting them. I'm not gonna lie. But being ignorant is not like I'm ignorant when it comes to stock markets. I don't know anything about that. I know that. I'm not aware. If you try to ask me a question, I'm gonna be like, I don't know. It's being ignorant to that. And in the times we're in right now, it's a lot of ignorance.
Yeah.
But when you are saying what you're saying, it's actually opened my eyes even more to the fact that it's because it's not taught.
Yeah.
That's really eye-opening. So before we end this, because like I said, I didn't want to hold you up too long.
You're good.
A great start. Where do you see education going towards? Do you think that it's going to stay with the online aspect, hybrid learning? Are we going to get back to the classrooms? Like, what do you think?
I think until like the pandemic really like dies down, I see online options being available, but I think ultimately we'll get back to in person. Or at least I hope so. I don't want to just stay online, but I think, it might be an option going forward if parents want their kids.
That's like two different curriculums you're putting up, right? So that's more.
Yeah. True, or it might not be. They might have teachers that are strictly for online teaching. I would be okay with that. I don't want to have two classrooms, but I'd be okay if there's a teacher that is dedicated only to online students.
Right, for sure. I know like even now high school has become, there's an option of doing that online.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. High school was hard.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I made too many friends and stuff in high school.
Yeah, that's true too.
But I get some people probably are working and they got different circumstances even in high school.
Yeah.
So other than that, that is really it for the conversation. Like I said, this was the first start to this segment. I really just want people to get a look at what teachers go through, how they approach things, even adapting to the pandemic, because a lot of people just don't hear these stories. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, thanks for choosing me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So for those listening, I appreciate you tuning in. This is part one. So this is episode 1 of this segment. We will have more educators on. And I'm trying to get them on all levels. For those watching, thank you for watching. Y'all have a great rest of the day.